Hi, and welcome to the November product update from MobileCaddy. Introducing myself, the CEO, Justin, and Paul, our CTO. Todd's joining us, who's our mobile chief technical architect, and Frank, our lead product engineer. As has become the norm, we picked out a few of the updates for this month that we think would be interesting to cover in a little bit more detail than the release notes, and also maybe to provide some background of why the features come through, or why the new item has been added to our release for this month. So let's have a look. We're going to start with data and data volumes. Paul, you've got some updates around the sync class as quite common now for each of these. If I pass over to you, I think you could expand on that.
Yes, certainly. In fact, it leads on nicely from last time we did this, Justin, where we were talking about batching and paging of data in Sync 5. So what we've done, we've extended Sync 5. I mean, many customers have already been using platform classes for restricting their data in a quite a technical, sophisticated way, fine detail way. What we've done is we've enabled this to happen in Sync 5, and we've basically provided the customer with a new interface. So rather than using the existing interface, you can now choose to use interface 2, which basically gives you the power to do paging. And what we do is we pass into that interface. MobileCaddy passes in full details of the mobile table record that it's coming off. This allows you to get hold of anything you like off there, such as the S object name, and basically anything you like. So you can write quite sophisticated classes. For example, you could write a class that looks at the S object name, and basically you can write a class that works off multiple. You can pass it across multiple mobile tables and have it doing different things depending on what table was coming through. You could install it anywhere you like. But most importantly in this release is we pass in the paging information. So where we are in the paging, is this the first page? Is it an initial sync rather than a refresh sync? Is it a subsequent page? And it's quite technical and quite complex, but it now allows the customer to leverage off the MobileCaddy internal algorithm for dealing with paging and batching, but with a massive helping hand. So we've some thorough documentation there, Justin. We've got some example classes to use. So basically the customer can say, right, I now know I'm an initial sync if they need to know that, or if I'm a subsequent page. And they'll also be passed through the IDs that have already been sent down to the device. So we give them all the information they need to write really complex but fully working, fully functional restriction classes that work with paging and batching.
I love this, and it's worth noting then, when you mentioned about passing the IDs around, this is one of the bonuses of the engine, being able to maintain the list of the IDs for each table, Paul, that's actually residing on each of the individual user devices that are running against the application. And as we're passing out into now bespoke custom code for that particular application to return the data, I know you've started to extend out some of the other functionality of MobileCaddy around the robustness, the reporting, and the monitoring as well.
This is true. Yeah. So importantly, I think what we found, some early feedback from our customers, was that the reporting that MobileCaddy does in terms of the mobile logs that you see against the connection session is extremely useful to them. And up until now, they've not been able to leverage that themselves. So what we've done is we've extended the MobileCaddy exception class that we use internally and made that available to our customers. So, and you can actually use this not just in Sync 5, which is which I've just been talking about with the platform classes, but you can use this in any restriction, any platform class that you like. So you can throw a MobileCaddy exception with all of your own detail inside, using your own logic. So you might write you might write a platform class, and you query some records, and you're not happy with what comes back, and so you wish to raise an exception. If you throw that exception now, you will find that you yourselves will actually get a mobile log created against the connection session, and you'll be able to deal with it in exactly the same way as you do with a MobileCaddy exception. So it will manifest itself in exactly the same way, keeping it all in line and consistent. Justin.
Excellent. I love this. I think it's great. And you know, a number of calls I've been on recently about visibility, you know, being able to trace back what happened and when. I think this is just going to get more and more legs going through. So Paul, in the sense that, you know, the Sync 5 is available, anything else that we need to mention in terms of how to use this, what we would use it with? So I know we're talking about the libraries particularly.
Yes, I believe there's we've had an update. I mean, at the moment we're using the utils version 1.3.4 with that class. So maybe that's something we could we'll bring Todd in shortly. He could give us a little bit more detail in. But yes, you do need to have that latest in class in there, utils.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think 1.3.4 minimum, as you say, and I think we won't sound like a stuck record for too many months. But as our Genesis dependency system comes along, that will be more and more automated, so those classes and those libraries will align automatically for everyone. I think that's excellent, Paul. Onwards and upwards, and crossing over to Frank, a month of recovery updates, I think, Frank.
That's right, yeah. So on the container upside, we've got a couple of updates around recovery. This time it's around basically the start and the end as you go through a recovery. So let's start at the start. As you may know, a few episodes back, I think we talked about the pin protection going into recovery, where a user would have to request a support pin and provide the recovery pin to their support teams, so they get into recovery securely and with the administrator knowing and to help control the whole recovery process. So that's now being brought into our Windows 10 container app, so they're all in line, and that's now available. And at the end side of recovery, as you may know, if you've ever gone through the recovery process, you'll recover the user's data and hopefully it's all gone fine, and you'll end up in a state where you may need to uninstall and reinstall the application and set the user all back up again, and they may need to log in with their credentials to the organization. And it's a little bit of a pain, and in some cases, since it's been such a long running app, the user may have even forgot their credentials, and it just adds a little bit of hassle after going through a recovery process, which isn't too nice. So now what we've added is a little button right at the bottom that's guarded and everything, so you can't lose your data, which helps you to reset the application while keeping all the authentication, so you can just get the user back up and running without having to go through the whole reinstall process, without having to log in again, and just get them back up and running as fast as possible, really. So yeah, hopefully we've improved those two sides of recovery, which is quite a nice little update, I think.
Yeah, I think it's great, Frank. I really do. I think recovery generally now being protected, as you've suggested, with the pin lock from the authentication from the platforms, nailed us down to where we want. And now, yeah, I know you've got some other usability items coming up, but I think this is one of those. It's really interesting because a lot of the users only ever interface with Salesforce through the mobile application, so it can be common because of the long-running token that they lose or forget their password. So yeah, this is brilliant. Thank you, Frank. And then moving on through, you know, from the container side, so the installables, and then think about the applications themselves that are built up, so the custom side for the client or the partners, the building for the clients and yourselves. Todd, we mentioned last time about this movement to more of a sort of plug-in add-on architecture that you mentioned last time, and I know there's been quite a lot of work around that. Would you like to give us an update on what you've released and what's coming forward from there?
Yes, I really would. I'm very excited about this piece, actually. And like you said, we mentioned it, I think, in the last month's update call. And what we're hoping to do is to pull out some of the code that currently exists in our shell and starter apps, and move them into their own npm packages, which means they can be added as dependencies into your code. And there's a few kind of goals or reasons that we want to do this, and kind of benefits to the devs as well by taking this approach. And the first really is to make the code that we're writing, so MobileCaddy's writing, more easily updatable. into existing applications. Without having to kind of do any kind of manual copy and paste or copying of files into the projects, it'll be a simple npm install type command to put in any updates that we might provide. And it also means that any new code that we're putting out, so common code that we're writing for our POC starters, for example, or demonstration apps, we can actually then share those as installable packages as well, which hopefully means that for devs who want kind of common features, they can check our kind of add-on library and see if there's something already written there that they can kind of fall back on without having to write it themselves, which again is kind of part of our goal, is to make sure that the devs are writing really valuable business logic for their particular application and not reinventing the wheel when it comes to kind of common code. So with those kind of goals and background in mind, yeah, we currently have three add-ons out there at the moment. There is one in GA, which is our REST, our kind of REST service, our REST wrapper, which is really handy if you're wanting to access any REST services on the Salesforce platform. So these could be the custom or standard REST calls. Examples of use might be accessing chatter or files and that kind of thing. And by using it, the code that we've written as this add-on, you don't have to worry about handling the auth token and any of the session management. We're kind of doing that for you. So that's one in GA, and then we have two actually in beta at the moment. And I'm really kind of keen to talk about these because I think they're going to be really useful. The first is our recent items service. So you could think that if you're working on the platform and desktop UI in Classic or Lightning, you have your kind of recently accessed items. We're going to kind of give devs a way that they can trigger the additional removal of items into this kind of recent items cache, I suppose, and then give them an easy call to pull them in. This, I think, has got a huge amount of scope in there for use. And the last one actually that's also in beta is our global search add-on. And this is comprised of actually a service, a control around a template for having a global search view. So you could think in your app, if someone was going to search for, I don't know, an account name, you could use this global search feature, and through configuration, you could tell your app which, tell this add-on which objects and which fields per object you're wanting to look in when you perform a global search. And so yeah, if you search for an account name, and maybe that appears in their email address for you as well, you can get results back for multiple objects from a single search. At the moment, like I said, we have the one in GA, and that's available via npm. And the two betas they're out can also be installed through the npm command line, but you'd have to specify the GitHub URL. So these are all on our these are all open source add-ons available on our MobileCaddy GitHub page. And I'll be I'm currently working on a blog post for these to hopefully kind of document why we're doing it, a bit of the approach that we've taken, and also the kind of how-to. And the docs should be out, I think, hopefully by the time this recording goes out.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think there's two real keys here, isn't there, that come up. I mean, the project timelines when we're building applications are always very tight. So some of these nice to haves or very nice to haves from the user's perspective just don't get the time, and not just the time to be able to test. So I think that's excellent, because I think Todd, you'd mentioned to me previously about the test coverage here as well, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So these services, we're pushing them out because they're standalone. They'll have their own kind of standalone unit tests as well. And actually, those tests will be brought in when you install the add-on into your app. So by including these add-ons, you'll get the coverage information. So you'll get the tests included within your project, and that will be included in your own coverage as well. So each GitHub, each package comes with its own, is set up to run its own unit tests through Travis as well. So hopefully you can have kind of high confidence that each release of each add-on is going to be resilient and robust as the rest of the MobileCaddy project.
Love it. Thanks, Todd. Sounds really good. Yeah, looking forward to that post as well. I think that it drives us on and shows us that we can increase the adoption through these sometimes through the UI, but also there's under the cover items that would just be too heavy to write, or maybe, and I find this, that just generally too heavy to spec, lots of pre-thought to do, whereas when we get down to a configuration, as Todd's suggesting, then they can be decided quite quickly and then integrated both into a new application. And I think what's beautiful here is that even in the version changes, being able to be pulled in or updated. So yeah, really fantastic. Paul, switching gears now, one of the areas, in fact, just been talking on this with a partner today about the sort of release management of MobileCaddy, and I know that's something you're looking at for all the different tools that can be used, be it change sets or whatnot. But as those releases are put through, more and more we want to control the users and the devices as they move through the over-the-air updates. These are from one version, we call them dynamic versions, to another. And I know there's lots of work at the singular level, but we've also been working hard on handling maybe the more larger groups of users to move from one version to another.
Yeah, that's right, Justin. Yes, absolutely. So it's actually one of the most important areas, isn't it? We see release management with MobileCaddy. I mean, the ability to push a new version of your application in, into a production org, if we go right to the top of the tree there, and have your current user base still quite happily running and using the previous version, and while you choose one or more users to use the new version. It's an absolutely vital part of what we do. It's something we're quite proud of. We're not going to push through an app, however much testing we've done, and expect everyone to start using it immediately. We want to pilot it. So there are we do have some tools out there. So on a specific dynamic version, if you imagine the situation where you push a new version into a production application, everybody, of course, is still out in a field running quite happily on the previous version. Some may be offline, some may be offline for weeks, who knows. But the new version is there, and you maybe want to trial it or with one or more users. We obviously have this ability to go to the new dynamic version record once it's been pushed through and its status has been pushed up, and assign one or more users to use that dynamic version. And then, of course, what would happen is the next time that the connection happens, the over-the-air update that you've described, Justin, takes place. So we have had this in place before, but it's been inflexible. If there's a large number of user device combinations against existing versions, dynamic versions of that application, it couldn't cope with it. I mean, it surprises us even to this day how many, increasingly users are using MobileCaddy, and that the volumes are increasing and hitting us all the time. So we've put in a nice page which runs off the dynamic version, which enables you to filter on a username and have their devices displayed and choose which one or more of those you wish to assign to this dynamic version. And there's also a nice array there of filtering and sorting options to sort and view that data. So it's a huge improvement on the previous page that was there, and in addition to being a huge improvement, allows huge volumes of data, Justin, to move people across to the new dynamic version. Something we're very proud of.
Yeah, totally. And I think that production story is spot on. And I think to put an addition to that, particularly when you're running through early QA and then moving into UAT, the volumes can get decent. So maybe 20, 30 users coming through and being able to manage those through and be able to get visibility. And I think coming off of that, the visibility side of it is you can see which users, as Paul was mentioning there, which users are currently working on which versions, which I want to move through, and then sort of digging into what Paul was saying about users being offline or maybe just not connected at that point, you can watch those migrations come through or alert or report on them, because of course MobileCaddy built on the platform all these records that create MobileCaddy itself. You can run reports, workflows, dashboards and so on, so you can get a real feel for how your user base is actually interacting with each version or migrating from one version to another. It's excellent, and I've actually been using this in pre-release, and it's very helpful. I can say that. I know it's wish poor, so I'm sure we get that to a number of clients quite quickly. That's great. I think from updates, which we've had a lot there, so incremental and some major upgrades, but of all of the existing features, it's quite an interesting month for us because we've got the first release of a new feature, which has definitely been on the roadmap for a while. There's been lots of foundational work done, but Paul, this culminates in visibility on the platform. So maybe I can come and ask you first to explain that side, and then we'll dig in from the sort of development side, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yes. Sounds good. Yes, like you say, Justin, it's a new add-on paid-for feature, which we call MobileCaddy Analytics. And what basically happens is the developer will put these analytics points, as you like, which we'll come on to, as you've said, Justin, the analytics points into their actual application code. So they might, for example, tag an insert update of data, or maybe a navigation point in the application. It's up to them. It's very, very flexible. But that point data that's created on the device with that application is crunched up behind the scenes for efficiency as it comes up to the platform. Now on the platform we do have a new mobile applications tab if you have this feature enabled, and you can choose which application that you wish to view. You may choose an individual user, or you could select that you want to choose all users to look at. What else? You can change you can put in a date range. You can specify which of those analytics points that you want to include. And what's nice here is that you can actually group those points. So I mean, you know, as you go through a particular use case on your mobile application, you might want that grouped together, or you may wish to have, I don't know, data points grouped. It's entirely up to the customer, and they can put human readable labels in whichever language that they want, on that actual screen. And once they've done all of that and click go, effectively a chart is produced. It's kind of like a histogram from across time, showing the user interactions against the time periods, and they're all color-coded groupings. And on that final chart, you can actually drill in. You can hover over the various color portions of the chart and then explain to you what they are, and from the data that you've chosen. And like I said, you can see this all happening across time, so you can observe the use of your application, which bits aren't being used and which bits are. It's really, really impressive, Justin. It really is.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we can see a lot through the transactional recordings, the logging and the connection session levels. And now we're really looking at usage, patterns of usage, maybe diving out a particular process, being able to record that point. And I think from many of our customers who, again, we come off the release management, are iterating heavily on their applications, this will provide some great visibility, not just from the usage perspective, but maybe the lack of usage or areas that are heavy usage and maybe want to have a little bit more TLC or feature addition on. And as you said, Paul, that these points can be added anywhere. So from the BA's perspective, particularly working with the business and understanding what should be recorded or could be recorded and then analysed, I think it's great. And having the ability to look across all the users, so you're smoothing out those usage patterns, is excellent. Again, I've been lucky enough to see some of the pre-release on this, and it's very exciting. And I suppose the key is just how easy is it to do. Todd, just thinking now, for the platform side, there's some labels to add, some categories to add one-off process. So that's really very, very easy, very quick, 10-15 minute setup. From the development side, just how easy is it to record, for example, if I wanted to record all the menu items, the taps, the navigations, just the flavour?
So we we've got to come at this with our usual approach of trying to keep everything as simple as possible. And so actually we only really have one API call, one new API call available for incrementing an analytic point, and that simply takes a string as a key, and I think it could be alphanumeric as a key, and that just gets put in. Right, it's actually no more than that to put a point in, so you could have this in your on-click calls, on your view loading, right throughout your app, wherever you wanted it really. So you get full control from a designer's point of view of the app. You get absolute control about where you put them, and then from the developer's point of view, it's actually really low effort to put them in. And the MobileCaddy libraries are taking care of everything else in this instance. So making sure that you're kind of incrementing an existing data point, for example, getting the data up to the platform, all of the housekeeping, and all of these pieces are all taken care of for you. And there's kind of full persistency in here as well. So this is the data is being stored within the encrypted store on the app. We're hoping to, I think, with these kind of the pre-release runs we've done, is to come up with some patterns that might be useful, and maybe even turn this into a release like an analytics add-on, which would kind of take care of even more the, I suppose, code that gets repeated over time, and take care of that for the developers too. So, but yeah, no further information on that yet. We're just seeing that might come along at some point in the future. We've definitely tried to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, love it. Again, I think it's really great. I love the idea of the service running alongside and then being pulled into the add-on process, and then, as you say, the developers can really run very, very quickly. So we'll definitely be doing some further releases around as it's a feature release for us, with more details and some videos and just basically some more insight into this. But I think just generally, the excitement I have about this is one, it's yes, it's great to have the analytics in, but two, it's reusing so many of the components of the MobileCaddy engine itself. So actually the mechanism of moving the logging around and so on already in a very robust process. So yeah, very, very happy about this. So I think with that, it's quite a loaded month really we've gone through. It just leaves me to thank Paul and Todd and Frank for the updates. As usual, there'll be the release notes on our developer.mobilecaddy.net site. And if you have any requests or new features that maybe stimulated from today's discussion, or things that you've been building a number of times and want us to have a look at to see if we can bring them into product, please let us know. We're on all the standard social channels, as well as if you'd like to email info@mobilecaddy.net. With that, thanks to everyone on the call, and thanks to everyone listening. Cheers.